Hi everybody, I just wanted to work on something with you because we've not done this before in this way. I'm going to be showing you how to make a dovetail template from 3 pieces of wood, and you may think, oh, I know what he's going to do. He's going to do something like this, sandwich 3 pieces of wood together, and whereas that is leaning towards the truth of what I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you a very unique way to make a set of dovetail templates, a 1 in 6, a 1 in 7 and a 1 in 8. And I think it's important to follow this step by step because this is going to save so much work for you, and you will have a wonderful set of very, very attractive dovetail templates like this one that will last you a lifetime, because dovetail templates really don't wear out. Because you only use a pencil against them. I've had some of mine, I've had them for 40 and 50 years, and they're wonderful pieces of equipment to have for your laying out your dovetails. I'm going to show you how to get the angles using this first, because then you'll have the angles that you can use to preset the cut lines that we're going to use when we do finally make this dovetail template, or these dovetail templates. You can make just one, even if you just use the principles that I show you in this. Even though I'm going to show you how to make 3, you can actually use the same principle just for the one single dovetail template that you could make from something like this. So don't just think that these 3 pieces are glued together. There's a lot more to it, and I think you'll see how I've thought through this, and you're going to enjoy owning the dovetail templates when you're done, because they're going to be so accurate and so precise, you'll amaze yourself. Let me go ahead and walk you through the layout of just one of these, because I think it'll help you to see what we do and why we do what we do. I'm just straightening this edge to make sure it's straight. I'm going against the grain, turn around, and I'm resetting my plane. We'll find the shaving. Now I've got a straight edge to work to, I can start laying out for the marks I need. So first of all, I take the square and I square a knife wall across the surface of the wood, all the way across from one side to another. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from that line 1 centimetre there, and I'm going to measure down this face. I'm going to go for a 1 in 7, so I'm going to measure down this face 7 centimetres to that line. So where those 2 crosshairs connect, I make a mark from this 1 centimetre to the 7 centimetre mark with a straight edge, and that gives me a perfect angle to set a sliding bevel to, or an angle finder. So I can rejig this, take this, offer it to the straight edge, lock it off, and I've got my angle that's perfect. Alternatively though, if you've got one of these protractors, you can set one of these as well to that angle, and that will tell you what the angle is. So in this case, a 1 in 7 equals 81 degrees. So that's what I have set on this now. And those are useful things to know, a 1 in 7 angle. So this is how I establish these angles on this side using that method. So you've got the method now, it's yours for life. Okay, we're ready to start laying out. We've got the angles. You can see what the significance of the angles was, that we needed those to set the sliding bevel. We're going to make 3 different ratio dovetail templates, so that when we come to different tasks, sometimes we use a 1 in 6 on soft woods because the softer wood compresses more, so it has a steeper resilience wall on the dovetails themselves. So when you pick it up or you pull the drawer open or something like that, those angles compress, and if the wood is very soft, you need a steeper angle. So that's why we have a 1 in 6. We go to a 1 in 7, which is very generic. That's the one I use in the day-to-day of my dovetailing. And then a 1 in 8 would be for that more refined piece of work you're doing. It could go as far as a 1 in 9. I've seen them that steep, and so that's what we're going to start doing now. I'm going to show you how to lay them out. You can see what the significance of this 3-step thing here. You've got 1 in 6, 1 in 7, 1 in 8. You can see why we've got those now, because on this one strip of, well, these 3 strips of wood, this one package, we're going to put the 3 angles into the dovetail templates as we start piecing this puzzle together. And it is a puzzle because we're not just gluing this piece to this piece to this piece. We're actually creating something that you will never have seen before. So let me show you what the steps are, and then you can enjoy just following me step by step all the way through this project, and you're going to end up with 3 very lovely dovetail templates just like this one. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a perfect tool for laying out. You literally just take your dovetail template, lay it on, flip, 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 flip. You've got the opposing angles on your piece of wood that you're making your dovetails from. And I think you're going to love this, because you'll have dovetail templates that will last you for a lifetime. So it's going to be great. So let's take a closer look. Let's come in a little bit closer around the bench now so that you can see what we're doing, because if I don't get you close in, you won't be able to see the precision that I'm searching for in the laying out of my angles for my dovetails, and then of course my corresponding of all the pieces, because I've planed up my 3 pieces. I've got them all perfectly sized. I even used a vernier to make sure all of the pieces were parallel along the whole length, and in the width I got them all exactly the same width, even though I will, when I've glued these pieces, I will take one final pass with the plane just to make sure that they're all perfectly level. But I've got the 3 pieces. I've made sure that they are planed up perfectly, so that when I do glue the different parts, don't think we're gluing this all together. Just have that little reserve in your mind that you don't know all the details yet, but you will within an hour. First of all, I've arranged my pieces as they are going to look in the hole when I've finished this and put it together. So when you offer the piece here, you can see how the midsection is going to be sandwiched in between, and there won't really be very much left of these outside pieces by the time we've cut and removed those. So that's what we're going to do, what I'm going to do. I'm going to just sharpen my pencil because I want a good sharp edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my piece, this is my my template, so all I'm doing is I'm going to mark this midsection on or in between the 2 ends, the distances that I need to establish the position of these outside pieces. So I'm coming 1.5 from this end, and then I'm going to go to these are going to be 4 inches long, so I go 4 inches, but then I add 1/16 beyond that. So I've got 4 inches and then 4 1/16, and from that 1 inch, that 4 inch mark, I come back at 1.5 inches. From that next mark, the 16th gap in between, I go 1.5 inches, and then I go 4 inches from there, and then add another 16th yet again. And then from that 4 inch mark again, I make a mark at 1.5 inches. So that leaves me exactly 4 inches overall. So I get my 3 templates out, bump, 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 just like that. That's what I do now. I've got those laid out. I take my square and square the overall length with the 1/16 gap in between, and that's just giving me the cut length. And when I've done that, I'm going to stand them on edge, and I'm just going to transfer those marks to the opposite side and across this edge, just to give me a good visual of where my overall lengths are. And of course we'll be using knife walls after we've marked this, so we'll be using knife walls for the final cut walls, and they will bring the total accuracy that we want to this work. So there, and you can go all the way around, do both sides, whatever you want to do, but remember the pencil lines are only temporary lines, they're just to get you in the zone. And what we're going to do, we're going to have different angles for each of these. So we want one square angle, so from the end of this last one, which I didn't mark yet, I come up 1.5 from the end, and then I come up 1.5 from the overall length from the opposite end, that 4-inch mark, and that gives me the position. Now some of these are just square across, like on this template here, this one is a square because it actually becomes a square. This is the angle, we'll get those angles shortly. So this line goes across 1, and this one across 1, and then across this one. So these are going to be my, oops, not got that set properly. There, and that gives me, just let me check myself. So I've got my square lines, and then I need to put the angles on, which I'm going to get off my board here. So then I set my protractor to the different angles. So there I go for the 1 in 8, 1 in 7, 1 in 6. So I set each one of those, and this then gets placed on that second mark. So I've got my distance there, there's 1, transfer to the next one, the 1 in 7 angle, set that one, and these will become knife wall shoulder lines very soon. So there's my other one, and then there is my last one, the 1 in 6, and that goes on there. So now I have those angles laid out on my piece of wood. So I've got a 1 in 6, 1 in 7, and 1 in 8. That gets me exactly where I want to see. So I've got my visual, I'm good to go. I'm going to start working to lay out the lines and make sure everything's synchronized. I'm just getting all the lines onto the edges. That will give me a guide for subsequent cuts really. This is just to get me in the ballpark so I can see. And I'm going to do the opposite end, so I'm turning it end for end. So I just got the opposite edge side of this, because I don't need to do this face yet, because that's going to have permanent knife walls in it by the time I work on that next time. But I'm just putting these on this edge. Okay, so that's my laying out done for this, and I can take the bottom one, can go out of the way. This is the one I want to get to here, because I want this to be marked onto this piece underneath. So I've got my lines on there, I've got this side and this side, so I'm just simply going to take a ruler and mark those angles. So I've got, let me see, it's a bit dark this wood, so I'm marking the angles onto here, just the angled ones for the minute, and I'm just going to use the ruler to join those lines up, because these don't need to be exact, because you'll see why when we get to it. But I now just join the angled lines only, dot to dot, like that. This wood is so dark I can barely see my pencil line. You can use a piece of tape if you want to on here, because we're going to be doing that anyway soon. So there it is, those are the angles that I've got, and then I square the other lines across, just literally with the square, from the lines that I put on before, like that, and this gives me a good picture of where I will end up. Okay, so these correspond to these angles on there, so, and we're going to be setting this piece on top of here so they're exact, and then this one will go back underneath here, and we'll see where this goes in a minute. Now that we've got that marked, I think you'll probably start to guess maybe what I'm going to do, maybe not. So what I'm going to do is take this one off. I've got my marks, I've got my angle marks on there, and I'm just taking some 2-inch wide masking tape, and I'm going on to each of the mahogany faces like that. And then I'm going to just cut the excess off of that paper. Like that. And I'm going to do exactly the same on this side too. I've got no marks on this side yet. So just flush onto the edge. Doesn't have to be dead flood. None of this at this stage has to be that accurate, but where we're moving to in a second is going to be accurate. We're going to do a couple of things that will guarantee the outcome here. So get rid of the excess. Okay, good sharp knife really will ensure we have that accuracy that we're striving for. And what I've got to do is make sure every time I make an alteration here that I have these pieces lined up. So I want to make sure that this piece, wherever this was, is exactly the same as it was before. See there, it's different, so there, or maybe there. That's that one. So I've got my pencil lines guaranteeing the outcome there. And there is the, nope, I haven't got this right. It's just a question of getting these in the right position. That's that one and that's that one. So we're good. So now because I've got these lines on the top, I can see where the angle needs to go on this one, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reset my sliding, or set my sliding bevel instead of the protractor, because the protractor doesn't give me what I really want. It can, because I can't mark both sides with the protractor without altering it. So I set this is my 1 in 6. I've got my 1 in 6 there, and I've now got these lines to guide me, so I can mark these again onto this face. So I'm putting that there just to guide me, just to make sure. And the same with these. So I reset. So I'm going to do this side first, and I'm going to take my knife and cut through the tape right on that. So now I've got this 1 in 6. I flip over with this, and I go onto, I'll have to lift it off because of the butterfly on the other side. Come onto this side and cut through that paper on this side, just like that. Then I've got my square section, so I've got my square line, and that goes on there. I flip over and do the same again, just go into your pencil line, like that. Then I move along. I'm going to carry on because I've got the square in my hand. So I'll do my square lines first, flip over, do the same again. the last one, getting a little bit short of space for the stock of the square there, but it'll work fine. Flip again, align again, like that. Then I reset my sliding bevel to the 1 in 7 now, so I'm resetting it close as I can get it. And this is the middle one now, so I go on here. I've got pencil lines on the corner so I can't be far out. Flip over, same on this side. Just use the pencil lines on the edge of this piece, like that. And now we want the 1 in 8. And that is what we need for this one. Okay. Get everything aligned again. Make sure you are Oh, I've gone the wrong way on that line. Oh no, I've just gone on the wrong. I must have 2 marks on there, so I've got to go back to that one, thankfully. So I got the wrong line. Great. So this goes here. Is that right? Nope. Oh, I'm going in the wrong direction altogether on that one. Should be going in this direction. Sorry about that. You probably won't even see it, but I'll just have to make sure I remove the right bits on this now. Okay. Ah. I should have looked at the others really. Okay, so I've got it this time. This goes here. Where it goes to now, so that goes there. I've got all my pieces lined up on the edges, so now I know I've got this right at last. So watch what happens now, because we're going to remove this way, and I'm going to just take my knife and I'm going to remove this section. So I've got 2 pieces of tape here because of my miscuts, but this comes out, and in this case this comes out. You won't make this mistake, I'm sure. And this comes out like that, and this one comes out. So this is now going to go with this one, and then we flip over and we're going to take this midsection out on this one, on each of these. Like that. And one more section is here. Okay, see what we've got now is we've got this perfect place to put our glue. We're going to run glue, glue and glue, flip over, run glue, glue and glue. Then we're going to lift off the tape and sandwich these together and clamp it. That's the next step. This next stage is very simple, and you'll get it, because we're going to take this apart now. I've got these aligned where I want them to be. This one's going to go here, so I'm going to flip this onto the top of here. So I'm just running a little bit of glue in here like that, not too much, you don't need a lot, and we spread that glue just like that, like that. It doesn't matter if it goes on the tape, because in a second we're going to pull that tape off. I'm going to do the underside, the opposite side as well, because I've got the tape and I can hold it without spreading any glue contaminating the adjacent surface. That's the idea of this, is so we don't contaminate the adjacent surface, and the best way to spread this, I think, is with your finger. So there we have it. So this one, I'm just checking to make sure I'm aligned. So this one is going to go here, so this one is going to go here. So now I can peel off my tape. I probably should have left a tab on there somewhere. So the reason we don't want a lot of excessive glue is because we don't want to squeeze out into the main area, the tongue area I'm calling it, the part that's going to be the recess for the dovetail part. Okay. So now this goes here, just like this. Does it? No, it goes on this one. Just press it, let that glue distribute evenly underneath, and this one is obviously the same. So it's a very efficient way of doing it. And once these two surfaces are together, we have a little bit of time to manipulate and maneuver. That goes there. I've got my lines. I can see my lines on the edge. They're aligned fine. This goes here, and I just flush the ends, flush the faces. I might spend a little minute just squeezing this together, just like this. Let that glue move around inside. But it won't go on to this section and this section, it'll stay in there, which is exactly what I want. So now I just drop this straight into the vise this way. I got to keep these aligned. Flush on the end, into the vise, just for security mostly. But then I'm going to bring in my clamps, just like this. Of course, the only area that really needs pressure on is that section where we have the glue. So make sure these are flush, cinch it down, and go to your next clamp, just like that on that glued area. That's all it needs. And there it is. And we leave that for maybe an hour and a half, something like that. We can take it apart and then we'll be ready for the next stage. So that's it. Dead simple. So now we can take the clamps off and see how we did. And what I'm going to need to do is just take off the finest shaving off the joint lines here with a shallow setting on my plane. That's all it needs, just that, because it's so very, very close to being perfectly level. And I've got what I need there. I've got two straight edges and it's still parallel because I took so little off. Look at this, this is so parallel, it's perfect. So I'm now ready to do some more layout on this, and I'll bring you in even closer for this because these details need to be so precise. So we'll work this out together. I've been establishing the knife walls on all the first two of them. I've got one left to do, and I saved that so I could show you exactly how I did what. So let me walk you through this because it's so important that you do get it. And I've done the 1 in 6, I've got my knife walls in place, 1 in 7. Now I'm on the 1 in 8, this last one, this final piece. So what we do is we take the sliding bevel, offer it to the angle, slacken off, and align this as perfectly as your eyes can see. Lock it off and then check yourself to make sure that that lines up perfectly right on your knife wall, because that is so critical. And what we do next is we align this with the 1 in 8 on here. So I've got this lined up on that 1.5 inch mark from the end of my template, and I make my knife wall clean across like this. Okay, then I go with my square and I mark the square aspect. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to come from this face because I want this long section of the stock of my square to go up against the longest part. I don't want it on this little tail end piece. Make your knife wall across, stand it up on edge, and go across only the outer pieces. Don't go across the midsection because that will be permanently in your dovetail template when it's done. Flip over, get the knife in the knife nick, slide up to it and pull the knife across, and then that way this knife wall across here should line up perfectly on both sides, right on that corner. So there I am, I've got that. I've got my angle on this one. This one I do the same. I only go across the outer sections in the oak. I don't go across the mahogany section. Across here, stand up to the opposite side, into the knife nick here, slide your square up to it, and just make the line right across the outer pieces. And then, in theory at least, when you put this onto here, I'm lifting it up onto this block because the wings of my sliding bevel stick into the bench top. So there, and then I check myself right on this corner, and I've got a perfect alignment of my two shoulders from both sides. So it comes out exactly on this corner. Absolutely perfect. And I've got this all the way through these, and now I'm ready to work on removing sections in between and ending up with my dovetail template. So let's take a look at that now. Now that I've got all my knife walls established and I'm happy that they are in place, I can start cutting. And this is the same procedure we might use for making the shoulder of a tenon or any of the shoulders on our joint, where we chisel into the knife wall and remove some of the waste. But make sure you're going on the waste part. Make sure you know which part we're taking out. We're taking out this, we're taking out the whole of this, the whole of this, the whole of this. So flip over, mark them up so you know which section you're taking out, because it's all too easy to cut the wrong one. I've got my knife walls there, I've got my vertical lines, I've got everything I need. So clamp it in the vise and then chisel into those knife walls with a good sharp chisel, like this. I'm leaving the mid one, the separation lines that part off the two joints until later, because they're going to disappear anyway, but I want them to hold together until I've done this. So I flipped over to the opposite side, so I'm working on my angled joint lines at the moment, and then I'm going to work on the square lines next. turn it around so I've got everything working to my advantage. So what I'm really doing is just creating that little step down that the saw will sit in when I start cutting. Flip over, do the same on this side. This next part, we're going to cut the shoulder lines, square or angled. I make a through cut. This is where you have to be very careful. If you go into the mahogany or that centerpiece, it's going to show. So I'm dropping my hand and I'm looking at this one side only. And then I'm going to the next one, up against the knife wall, nice and tight, saw down, and then in the last few strokes, lift the far side of the saw up, because you can't see that side, so you don't know whether you're level or not. And we'll come back in and do that side. I really don't want to see any saw kerf going into my mahogany because it's going to show forever. If it happens, it happens. It doesn't affect the accuracy of your template. So if anything, I'm staying shy of my depth line, the breaking colour, by about 0.5 millimetre, probably, erring on the side of caution. Got my hand, and now you'll see what I mean. I'm going to turn it round. I'm way off my line, my depth lines on this side, and I did it on purpose because I know my limitations. So now I can see from this side, take out that little middle section, take it down on my side, still staying above the line. That's neat. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the knife and see if the knife will go inside here. This now, I don't know if you can see this, this now is quite loose. So there's only a few fibers hanging on in there. So I'm just going to go in with my saw. Yeah, there it is. So I'm already through. This one won't waggle quite so easy because it's fixed at both ends. But what I can do is I can go in with the chisel right along the joint line, very, very carefully. There. And that's the midsection. A little bit of a hair hanging on here. There it is. So it leaves a little bit inside, but this just comes out with a chisel in a minute. So this is what we're doing. So you can see how beautifully accurate this is becoming. How loose is this one? I think it's close again. So I'm going in the middle, right on the very
glue line, and I'm popping it upwards with my hand, just like that. A little bit hanging on here. There it is. And the last bit, well, I could just pop it from the end if I wanted to, like this. Yeah, I didn't even need to pop it, did I? So now, can you see what we have inside here? We've got those few hairs that need to be chiseled out, but that's nothing, is it? What I suggest you do with these, we're going to just focus on this one side, but I'm going to take an ultra sharp chisel and pop this down here. So I go in just right on that knife wall like this. Keep it nice and tight and chisel through those remaining few fibers like that. And that's given me a very clear inside corner, and sometimes the glue will seep into that corner and keep glue the oak to that surface where you don't want it. But that's it. That's basically how we do the separations. And then there's another one there. So I'm just going right on my shoulder line, and I just chisel out the corners like that. And there I've got half of my dovetail template done. So I've got the other side yet to do, so I'm going to do that now. The next step is to separate the pieces into three, and then we've got a little bit of refining to do to the pieces, but not very much. But I want to show you what I would do to mine so that you can evaluate what I do and see if it would suit you. So first of all, the important thing is to square across the cut lines across from one side to the other. If you've got two cut lines, which I have, go ahead and square them both across, because that will be the determinate length of them all being the same size of 4 inches for one thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and square mine all the way around, because that in effect stops tear out on the very ends of your template. Now I already had them marked across on the sides, so I don't have to do the sides, and I can use those reference knife walls to cut through. And this part, before I do the next part, I'm going to clamp this in the vise like this. So I've got the main body of the stems in the vise, so it's nice and secure. Make sure it's secure all along. And all I'm going to do is take my chisel and pop it right on the corner like this, and put a bevel on parallel to the edge. I'm going to do that on every one of these. It works very nicely. And I suppose I should bring you in a little closer so you can see exactly the effect of it. What I do is I place my chisel, just such a small amount, really about a 32nd of an inch from the corner, and I tap it like that, and it's just bit into the surface, and then raise it up around 45 and I just moved it then. Watch it now, and I just pop it like that. Keep in control so I don't shoot in, and I have a little bit there to do, and it gives that beautiful crisp edge. So let me go ahead and do these along the length so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Let's do all three of them. I'll put this one here and then I'll move it along so you can see. So right on the very corner, try and get it all the same, them all the same distance. Just pop it. So I've got my chisel hand. My left hand is very rigid and locked into place. And if you remember, I did the long axis before I did the cuts. So these corners here are already, the arris has already been removed. Oh, nice. This is nice. So you're all going to have these beautiful dovetail templates for the rest of your life. I don't know what you'll do with the numbering of them, so you know what the angles are. You could use a Sharpie to mark them, I guess, or some stamps that would do it just as well. I think a calligraphy pen would look really, really nice. A lot of old tools had black India ink where they wrote the price onto the tools. So simple, this, isn't it? Look at that. Okay, so we've got all of those done. I've got the others, a few more to do along this edge here. Well, I may as well go and do it, and then you can watch. It's just nice to see, I think. Or you can fast forward. Oops, I should have choked up a little bit more there. No marking though, that's great. These little finessing details are what make this yours. And I haven't used any sandpaper on this, and I probably wouldn't. I like the crisp corners. We've got these corners here are quite hard, and here's what I do with those. You could take a file, but if you've got a little bullnose plane, see what you think of this, see if you like this for a technique. What you do is you put your plain corner right in there, and you're feeling for the grain. I was feeling for the grain then, and it was going the wrong way. So I turn around, and I just pull that plane right in like that, and then the same on this side to just get just getting the bulk of the area. Now that's going the opposite way, so I go in here. Nice little technique, that, isn't it? So I'm removing the arris, which will soften it in use, and it works perfectly. Even on that one. Okay, so we've got to cross cut these to length now, and that's my next task. You don't need a knife, you don't need to chisel in, a bevel into the knife wall, because we severed the fibres on both sides. So just take your saw, go right in between your two knife walls. Go gently and listen to the sound. One. Two. Look how progressive this is. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take just a flat file. My ends are nice and smooth, but I wouldn't hesitate to do a little bit more to those end pieces, especially with a file like this, where you can take the file and you can work it this way. It's going to squeal, but you just alter your body. If you can, take the coals off the pieces you removed. That will remove the vibration a little bit, not all of it, I doubt. Try it again. Aha! And there we have it. Total success. Okay, and watch what happens now. Just take those away. These corners are hard, they've got a sharp corner. Just take the file and a couple of rubs like that. One off this corner here and one off this corner here. And you've got a beautiful finish on there par excellence. That's perfect, I think. I'm going to do the same on this one, so I'll use the coals again. Actually, I might turn these around. Isn't this a neat project? I hope you think so, because I do. I think it's great. File those ends. Try and work to your knife walls, because if you work to your knife walls, these ends will be square and you never know where you might want to use them. So same again here. 1, 2. 1, 2. And then your corners. Voila, there we have. That's what we do. We're going to do the same to the other two. And then we're going to put some finish on this. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Nice, huh? I'm just using shellac for my finish because it's durable. It's got a nice, pleasant feel to it. I'm going to put 2 coats on. I don't want to high gloss, but 2 coats should be ample for protection. It doesn't need real protection, just to keep it clean, really, over the long haul. And I don't really fuss too much with it now. As you can see, I'm just handling it with my fingers. This first coat's fine to handle with your fingers, and to leave it on a rough board like this that's dust free but just rough. So I'm going to leave that now for about 15 minutes and then give it another coat. I've done these 2 already, and I just wanted to show you how I was applying the finish. So these are ready for actual steel wool and a little bit of beeswax, not beeswax, furniture polish. So that's that, isn't it? Great. Clean my brush after I've done this next coat. I'm going to put the last coat on this, and that's just exactly as we did before. This brush I'm using is called a Hake brush, and it's used by people who do watercolours. They're inexpensive. They're a Chinese, a Chinese manufacturer, and they're very nice for this type of small work. As you can see, they have that. They have that very nice flat tip. It's used for putting on
broad washes onto watercolour paper, and I love it really. It's a very forgiving finish, this shellac. So I'm going to leave this one on the board here just to dry up, put that aside, put my brush aside, and then show you what I do to just finish these. It's not complicated, but if you've never seen it before, I think it's definitely worth seeing. I just take some steel wool, and I think, you know, this is what we call 4/0 steel wool, or 4 zeros, and it's very fine. It's about the finest. You can get finer, and I just dip it into the furniture polish like this. And with the steel wool, it cuts the surface just a little bit and takes off any surface nibbing, what we call nibbing, those little rough surface areas that are caused by bubbles, and those bubbles actually come from air holes in the surface of the wood, and as the finish is drying, it pushes that finish up and it dries with that little rough texture really. So I put this on like this, and then I just use a shoe shine brush, but you can just use a soft cloth, and I buff it with the shoe shine brush, and what that does is it evens out the coat of wax, and now I've got a much more gentle sheen on the surface that's just very pleasant. And this is done, this is ready to use. I just love that finish, it's great. I'll do this one, and when the other one, I usually leave a good hour before I put any furniture polish on shellac, because the furniture polish itself can soften the shellac if it's not really fully cured. There we go. So I'm done really. So that's it. So I'll show you these when they're all finished. Probably you'll see them when I do the introduction or something like that, or the finished products. Anyway, there we go. 2 and 1 more when it's dry.